guys, my name is Alright Taz, and today we're going to do something that I'm going to potentially regret because the bike is running so well, but I'm going to remove this ugly airbox and intake system and replace it with dual velocity stacks, which is going to look awesome and potentially give me just a horsepower or two boost. Because we're changing the airbox and intake, I've also bought some jets. These came from Mikuni Oz, and these came from DHZ. I get all my jets from DHZ, and after a bit of research, I'm going with 130 mains and 25 pilot. 2.5 turns out on the air screw, and 1 notch down on the needle, which is about what they run for a pod kit. And while we're talking about pod kits, you can buy pods really easily from Justified Custom Cruisers and even eBay. There's a Facebook group that's basically run on a guy who makes pods. Bottom line is that they replace the stock airbox with real cheap style pods, and in my personal experience I've never had any luck tuning pods on carbs because the airflow is real choppy. These, in theory, the airflow is going to be nice and laminar, and the faster we go, the more airflow we're going to get, and it's going to be nice and smooth. With a big pod like this on the carburetor, it sort of creates a vortex and you get choppy airflow, and so the bike runs choppy, and if a truck runs past you get a rush of air and the bike leans out. So bottom line is I've decided to go with velocity stacks. The other thing that's influenced this is Lane Split Boulevard, which is a YouTube channel, and they specialise in lane splitter style bikes. It's been a big influence for building Dizzy. Often they're using Honda Steeds or Honda 400s or Honda 600s, but they're basically building bikes in this style, and they use velocity stacks on all their bikes. The velocity stack, I personally believe, is going to filter out as much rubbish as a cheap pod filter with the screen on it. Anything that's big enough to go down that and affect the engine is going to be filtered out with the screen, in my opinion, as well as just a cheap eBay pod filter. Your opinion might differ, but this is a weekender bike. I probably ride it 4 times a month. It's always on road. I'm willing to take the risk to experiment with using velocity stacks or trumpets over a pod filter to get it to run better and smoother. And also, I've never seen velocity stacks on a V-Star, so I just want to experiment with the idea. So we also know this, which is a 12mm just generic breather. The crankcase breather on a V-Star goes up into the airbox. There'll be a hose connected to the airbox underneath the tank, and that'll just need to fasten onto that hose and be zip tied somewhere. There's a fair bit going on underneath the tank on a V-Star. As you'll see in a minute when we get the tank off, the airbox sort of sits under there, and we're going to remove all that, and it should clean up this bike. It should clean up this side of the bike. I've got my eye on this filter for another project, so we're going to recycle that, and it'll get rid of this. It'll just look leaner, it'll look narrower. In my opinion, it will just suit the bike. If it doesn't work, we'll reinstall this and reinstall the jets and go back to where we were. We're not changing anything that's irreversible. the tank off. Now we will get the airbox off. There's the airbox removal, and you can see straight away how that's going to slim down the bike. I'll put the breather on first. Comes up there. It's going to have to sit there. So as part of emissions, the crankcase breather on a stock bike usually vents into the airbox so that oily air can be processed back through the engine. We're just going to vent it to atmosphere, which won't be a problem. That's it there. And we'll probably end up cable tying it. That's pretty much all there is to it. These are 48mm. These were 50mm plus or minus 2mm. Right, got the velocity stacks on, got the breather on. Gives us heaps of room underneath the tank. We'll probably end up just using some cable ties to tidy this area up a little bit. But what we've got to do now is just clip these. That fuel filter out of the way, and that gives us access to the float bowls so that we can change the jetting. Because we changed the jetting previously, we've got Allen head bolts rather than screws, which means that we could get the float bowls on and off pretty quickly and easily. And I reckon we would be able to get these float bowls off pretty easily with the peanut tank on, because it sits on that. If we removed some of these hoses, we'd be able to get to it pretty easily, I reckon. So we've got a few in the float bowls. I did try and run it empty, but obviously failed. Just try and soak that up. It's .120 main jet, and we're going to replace it with a 130 main jet. Okay. So these are brass. You don't want to cross thread them. You don't want to tighten them too much. just nip them up. That's the main, and this is the pilot. So the Mikuni jets go up in increments of 2.5. So they're 122.5, and these are 125s. Put the float bowl back on. Right. So, we've got the tank back on, the pod's on, the rejet. So, let's just fire it up and see what happens. Fuel pump. Choke is out. Sounds pretty good. Started up pretty easily. Came off the choke almost instantly. It's not backfiring. But we'll only really know for sure when we take it for a ride. Let's clean up a bit and yeah, we'll take it out on the road. G'day guys, my name's Taz. We are here at Minnow Falls car park picnic area. And check that out. That is the bike without the stock airbox. Just looks fantastic. Slims it down, narrows it down. Looks magnificent. Let it fire it up and take this bad boy for a ride with these Velocity stacks. Alright, so as soon as you jump on the throttle, or actually sorry, as soon as you start the bike, it leaps to life quicker. It's running richer, and so it fires up quicker. And it was only on the choke for like 30 seconds. We're running now 25 pilot, 130 main, and 1 notch. We lifted the needle a notch from stock. So when I had the chrome top air filter on the airbox, we did that then. I didn't have to do that again, and it certainly doesn't feel like it's running rich from 1/4 to 3/4 on the throttle. So I'm going to leave that needle alone unless I see any symptoms of it running lean with this new setup. So we've got up 2 increments on the pilot. Increments on the Mikuni jets are 2.5, so 20 stock, we're now at 25. With the modified airbox intake, we were at 22.5. Stock, I think the main jet was like 92.5. It was certainly under 100. And then we went 120, and now we've got 130. And again, I'm not getting gassed out. Not bogging down. Overly rich. There's no backfiring, stumbling. It's not actually showing any symptoms of being clean. Responds to the throttle perfectly. So on my first go, after a bit of research, I may have got it right. The jetting I've used is the same as what they use on the pod kits. I'm just using the Velocity stacks. It's a better laminar flow rather than the sort of choppy vortexy airflow that the cheap pods that are just available everywhere provide. I've just never ever had any success tuning the bike to a point where I'm happy right through the rev range with those pods. What about debris, I hear you say I ride? Well, after a bit of research, they've used Velocity stacks on bikes right from the early days. So they have to have something going for them. One school of thought is that they can ingest moisture, which is probably very accurate, but in this situation with the dual carbs, they're right up in underneath the tank. So straight away, the tank's going to protect it from the vast majority of rainfall. The other fear with Velocity stacks is, again, probably quite valid, but they're going to allow dust and debris into the fuel system. And most people suggest that with the T-strainer style filter, anything that's big enough to do some damage will be filtered out. And Tasmania's a very wet environment. It's certainly not known for its dust. And this is a road bike. It's not going off-road, and it's not a bike that I ride every day. It's a weekend bike. So for the cool sound, the laminar airflow that allows better performance and ease of tuning, at this point I'm going to run the risk. If I find that I'm blocking up jets with debris and things, I'll reevaluate that. There's ways around it. Potentially putting a hood over the velocity stack. But at this point, I'm really happy with the results, guys. The performance kick is noticeable. It's a real noticeable gain, and I'm really excited about it. Nothing coming. Bike is just noticeably quicker. As you heard, right through that rev range, no stumbling. When I let off the throttle, there's no backfiring, no popping. Can't hear any backfiring through the carby or the velocity stacks. I think the jetting is about right. Without the use of a dyno or a professional, it feels pretty good to me. Fantastic. Looks better, goes better, sounds better. It's different to everyone else. What more could you want, guys? My name's Alright Taz. Till I see you next time, I'm out.